Another election cycle arrives, and with it, the familiar sense of obligation. The polling stations open their doors, and we file in, clutching our voter cards and a vague sense of civic duty. Once again, we're presented with another round of uninspiring choices, faces, and names that barely stir any excitement or hope. The ballot, instead of being a symbol of possibility, feels more like a checklist of disasters to avoid. Each name is a reminder of promises broken, scandals endured, and the ever-present sense that none of these options truly represent us. Choosing the lesser of two evils has become the norm, like picking between a wasp in your car or a spider in your shoe. Neither is welcome, but one seems slightly less catastrophic than the other. Voting isn't about excitement anymore, it's about damage control. The act itself feels more like a defensive maneuver than a celebration of democracy. Most of us enter the booth not to support someone, but to block the other. Our choices are shaped by fear of what could go wrong, not hope for what could go right. The civic pride we were promised in school, replaced by weary resignation. The posters on the classroom wall spoke of duty and honor, but reality feels far more complicated. Our vote feels less like a voice and more like picking who we'll complain about for the next 4 years. The conversations with friends and family are filled with frustration, not optimism. Instead of rallying behind inspiration, we calculate which candidate's flaws are more survivable. We weigh scandals, missteps, and empty promises, searching for the least damaging option. We've become experts in risk mitigation, not idealism. Our conversations are filled with strategy, not dreams. This isn't just a fleeting feeling, it's a structural problem that's now central to our democracy. The system seems designed to limit our choices, not expand them. Democracy, it turns out, can feel a lot like being stuck between a rock and a very hard place. The weight of responsibility is heavy, and the options rarely inspire. Yet, despite the cynicism and fatigue, we keep coming back. Each election, we hope, maybe this time, things will be different. Maybe this time, our reluctant ritual will lead to real change. And so, we keep showing up, holding on to the hope that one day, our vote will feel like a true choice, not just a compromise. Why does every election feel like a hostage negotiation? Enter negative partisanship. For many, political identity is less about loving your side and more about hating the other. It's not about cheering for your team, it's about stopping the villains. That's why voters stick with flawed candidates. The alternative is unthinkable. Your vote becomes a shield, not a tool for progress. Campaigns know this. Why inspire when you can terrify? Scaring you about the other side is easier and more effective than promising real change. So campaigns focus on what they're against, not what they're for. And the cycle of fear continues. Why does fear work so well in politics? The answer lies deep within our brains, in the ancient wiring that's kept us alive for millennia. When we encounter something that feels threatening, our amygdala, the brain's alarm system, lights up, flooding us with anxiety and alertness. Politicians and campaign strategists know this, and they use it to their advantage. Negativity bias means we're wired to notice threats more than opportunities. Our brains are like finely tuned threat detectors, always scanning for danger, especially when it comes to things that might impact our safety or well-being. Back in the day, noticing the tiger in the bushes kept us alive. Missing a threat could mean disaster, so our ancestors evolved to pay extra attention to anything that seemed dangerous or out of place. In politics, a hopeful message is a pretty flower, a negative one is the tiger. Our brains are far more likely to react to warnings of danger than to promises of hope, no matter how inspiring. Attack ads trigger our primal alarm bells. Fear and anger stick with us. These emotions are powerful motivators, making us remember the message long after the ad is over. Campaign strategists know fear motivates. It gets you to vote, donate, and act. They carefully craft messages designed to tap into our deepest anxieties, knowing that fear is more likely to drive behavior than optimism. When you feel threatened, you're more likely to show up at the polls. Fear can turn apathy into action, pushing even the most disengaged voters to participate. Positive messages rarely move us to action, but fear will get us off the couch. That's why negative ads dominate the airwaves during election season. They're simply more effective at grabbing our attention and motivating us to respond. That's why campaigns are emotional roller coasters, designed to provoke outrage and anxiety. The more intense our feelings, the more likely we are to get involved, share messages, and rally others to our side. These emotions override rational analysis. When we're scared or angry, we're less likely to weigh facts and more likely to react impulsively. When fear takes over, policy details fade away. The specifics of a candidate's platform become less important than the feeling of safety or threat. All that matters is defeating the enemy. The political landscape becomes a battlefield, with each side convinced that the other poses a dire threat. Our brain's threat detectors are in overdrive every election season, making us more reactive, more emotional, and sometimes less rational than we'd like to admit. If fear is the spark, attack ads are the fuel. Nobody remembers the ad about family values, but everyone remembers the ominous attack ad. Negative ads get more coverage, more buzz, and stick in our minds. Studies show negative info grabs our attention and is more memorable. Campaigns flood the airwaves with negativity because it works, even if we claim to hate it. Attack ads don't just smear opponents, they can also suppress turnout by making everyone disgusted. Some voters just give up, thinking both sides are equally awful. For campaigns, an opponent's voter staying home is a win. The media amplifies this, covering conflict over substance. Negativity creates a feedback loop, more attacks, more coverage, more cynicism. It's a race to the bottom, and everyone's running. The two-party system locks us into this cycle. Third-party supporters know their candidate won't win, so they vote strategically. You pick the major party candidate you dislike least, just to block the one you fear most. This defensive voting kills idealism and keeps third parties on the fringe. The system tells us our only real choice is between two unappealing options. Voters feel trapped, forced to compromise not for progress, but to avoid disaster. The result? Perpetual frustration and a sense that real change is impossible. Even when your side wins, it rarely feels like victory. Negative campaigns are fueled by a media ecosystem built for outrage. Social media and cable news thrive on conflict, not nuance. Algorithms feed us the most infuriating content, creating echo chambers of outrage. We see the worst of the other side, never the reasonable middle. Cable news turns politics into a spectator sport. Red team versus blue team, fighting for ratings. Every disagreement is framed as a battle for the nation's soul. The constant drama makes elections feel like a looming disaster, not a civic celebration. The media doesn't invent negativity, but it amplifies every spark into a firestorm. The result? Higher stakes, deeper divisions, and exhausted voters. Elections become less about hope, more about surviving the storm. So here we are, caught in a relentless cycle of negativity, fear, and defensive voting. Every election season, it feels like we're bracing ourselves for disappointment rather than looking forward to real progress. The sense of hope that democracy promises seems to get buried under layers of cynicism and frustration. Campaigns go negative because, unfortunately, it works. Fear and anger grab our attention, and politicians know it. Attack ads and smear campaigns dominate the airwaves, drowning out thoughtful debate and real solutions. The two-party system leaves us with little real choice, forcing many to vote against someone rather than for someone they truly believe in. It's a system that often feels rigged to maintain the status quo. The media, hungry for ratings and clicks, amplifies the chaos. Sensational headlines and endless coverage of scandals keep us glued to our screens, but rarely help us make informed decisions. Even well-meaning candidates feel forced to sling mud just to compete, knowing that positive messages often get drowned out in the noise. With each cycle, the attacks get nastier, and voters grow more cynical and disengaged. Trust in the system erodes and apathy takes root. Is there a way out? Maybe. It starts with imagining something better and believing that change is possible. Structural reforms like ranked choice voting could break the two-party stranglehold and finally let us vote our conscience, not just our fears. These changes could open the door to new voices and fresh ideas. But real change also requires us, the voters, to resist outrage, seek out facts, and demand better from both candidates and the media. We have to be willing to look past the noise and hold everyone accountable. It's a monumental task, like trying to stick to a diet in a candy factory, surrounded by temptation at every turn. But it's not impossible. If we want elections to inspire hope, not dread, we have to try. We have to believe that our efforts, no matter how small, can add up to something bigger. Otherwise, we'll keep picking between hurricanes and earthquakes and calling it democracy. We deserve better than a choice between disasters. The choice is ours, if we're willing to make it. Real change starts with us, and it starts now.